Boom! What's up, y'all? Welcome to the DJ Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to do this most Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we do it every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Standard Time. What up, Gregory Nettis? Um, you are first today in the building. It's funny, Gregory Nettis brought this up. Um, You can't remember when the 76ers swept the Lakers in the 1983 NBA Finals. Moses Malone destroyed the Lakers. Has an underrated superstar that doesn't get mentioned enough. Absolutely, I love Moses Malone, and I remember that series. Got Dr. J his only ring, and you remember the famous Moses Malone quote, 454? Of course, I remember that. Um, yeah, let's see. Boom. R.I.P. Moses Malone. Patrick Sargent, what up? I'm gonna jump down to why do I say this every week and I fail every week to keep up with the comments? Um Abel Valdez, what up? Says this is Peace Kenny. When is J. Rue coming on the show? Good question. Doesn't he live in Europe, I think? I heard he moved out to Germany. Um I haven't spoken to J. Rue in a good while, man. That was my Labor Day Eastern Parkway Brooklyn companion. We used to have a lot of fun out there, man. Spook Realm 4Q, what up? Please assault that like button. Please, yes, it helps the algorithm. And pick up the book. My brother's name is Kenny. The link is in the description below. And I'm going to say this a few times. I'm going to say it right now. Big up to the Rewind crew. Um, No jive turkeys allowed. Absolutely. When can we be expecting a mixtape? That's a good question. It's hard to play music on YouTube. I talk about this all the time. You get flagged for just about anything on here. Any kind of music. So it'll be a mixtape of all my beats basically. Uh Floji One, what up? John Walker, what up? Nevet Official, what up? Joey Joe, what up? Dan Marasuti, Scarborough, Canada, what up? Raw Justice Hip Hop, what up? MMA Crossfire. See all the regulars in the building. J Woo 72, Crown Jewels Music Group. Terrell McMillan, what's good, my brother, on a Friday? We got a little Friday streak going. What we got, like 4 weeks? Sweet Goldilocks, what up? Um, I don't recognize this name. Do I? Paul Lepe? Peace, brother. Peace. Uh, Ethan Sutton, you always come with the deep questions early, and you're one of the reasons that I be answering these questions and then it be having me fall behind. Says, what up, DJ KP? How do you perceive the balance between commercial success and cultural authenticity? And what advice would you offer to emerging artists striving to maintain that balance? That is the magic. That is the balance that is the key to longevity, and most artists never reach that balance. Most artists either go in one direction or the other, or they start out one way, lean in the other direction, get that balance point, and then keep going off into the other direction. And it's usually cultural authenticity, which could be labeled as underground, and they usually start like that, have some commercial success, and once you have tasted commercial success, it's very hard to go back in the other direction. um I always quote this Reverend Run, shout out to the Rev Run. He said this quote: a real hit record, a real hit record will change your zip code. And it's true. um a real hit record will change your zip code. And after you've had that success, and you receive the accolades, the money, uh, the awards, not only is you have pressure amongst your within yourself to continue that level of success, but the record company no longer accepts your cultural authenticity anymore. Once you've had one hit, you need more hits. Um, I quote my book. I quote. Well, I mention my good friend Biz and quote on this channel a lot. Rest in peace to my man Biz. We used to hang out a lot. I hung out with Biz when his biggest record was The Vapors, and I got to hang out with Biz in between albums. And then I got to hang out with Biz when Just a Friend became a million selling single. The difference, even for artists like Biz, who was already a gold selling artist, here's his plaque right here. From being a gold selling artist, the difference in his career when he had Just a Friend is night and day. Um, the places that he can go, the money that he made, the recognition is night and day. Um, and it's hard because now you're searching for that record again. Um, and I think it would have been great for Biz to have another Nobody Beats the Biz type record. But once you have a million selling single, it's very hard to go back. Um, Even in BDP, I've seen times, we've toured when in my time. Well, Chris is still on tour right now in Europe, but we toured nonstop since BDP came out in really '86. But I've seen times where we had lulls in between albums or whatever. I've seen times where we didn't have a big single. We still toured, but things were a little different. And then I've seen the times when a record like Step Into a World came out, and it was even KRS was 11 years into his career, had a huge success, was already a rap icon, and yet that song still took his career to another level. So, um, I'm rambling on now. What advice would I offer to an emerging artist? Uh, to find the balance and find what's true to yourself. With you can have cultural authenticity and have a very good career. Um, and never reach gold and platinum status, but still have a very good career if that's your lane. If that's your lane and you're successful in that lane, stay in that lane. If you're a commercial artist and that's all you do is try to make big records, stay in that lane. Um, Only a handful of people, I would say, have commercial success and cultural authenticity. It's very difficult. Um, but that's the blend. Uh, I don't know if I gave the proper advice because everybody's career is different. But if I had my choice, I don't know. I might lean towards commercial success because I've seen what commercial success can do, and I've seen people with cultural authenticity starving. So, if you're trying to make this a career, cultural authenticity is great, but you could be a starving artist. You could be successful, but most of the artists that have just cultural authenticity starve. I'm gonna get off this topic, but this is a great question. This is how I be falling behind, messing with Ethan Sutton, man. That's a great question. I would like to even get into it a little more, but I'm gonna move on. Crusher Blackwell says, has Chris considered rebooting the heel movement in this day of age of hip hop? I don't know. Um, That's a good question. I don't know. I've never heard him mention it. He talks more about the Temple of Hip Hop, which is really all an extension of the Stop the Violence movement into Heal, into uh, the Temple of Hip Hop. It's really an extension of all of these things. So I would say he's really continuing on. Jane Thomas Jr., thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Um, it says, been hearing Step Into a World and Hold by KRS played on ESPN. I didn't know Hold was getting played. Wow. Did he get paid for that? And were you in Down with the King video? Um, I went to the Down with the King video shoot and didn't get in, didn't get camera time. I was there. Um, everybody was there. Um, and yes, every time anyone plays your song, any song, Step Into a World Hold, whoever owns the publishing rights gets paid. And when it's on something like ESPN on television, the rate is even higher. And I believe if it's in a commercial or something like that, the rate is even higher. And if it's in a movie, the rate is even higher. But yes, he absolutely got paid for that. I didn't know the record Hold was on ESPN. I haven't heard that record in forever. I gotta go back and listen to that. Sheesh. Now that you mentioned it, I wish I had publishing on it. Did I not show that question? I think I didn't show the question. Let me make this smaller. Okay. I think I didn't show the question, but that was the question. And that was the answer. I'm on my iPad today, y'all, so it's a little bit different. But CMC's Technique in Class, what up? Rosmel, what up? Sydney Rhodes says 123, the crew is called BDP. Funny thing, 123 used to be our code on beepers. Remember when you had a beeper and used to put in the numbers, but the person didn't know who was the person didn't know who was calling them. You just see a number. So you had made up your own code that you would put probably 3 numbers following the number so people would know who it is. So the BDP code used to be 123, started by me. I would put in my number, then I put -123, and everybody started doing it in the crew. In Plain Sight says, "What's up, KP? Who's the better DJ, you or KRS? KRS is better. Um, KRS scratched on just about every BDP record after Criminal Minded, so he has scratched on classic records that you know, big records that you know. I've scratched on a few records, but he scratched on gigantic records. So I'm going to give him that nod. And he taught me how to DJ. Derek Mallory, what up? I'm going to jump down because I'm behind. Ultra Mag 7 says, peace, Kenny. Thanks for your contributions to Sex and Violence, my favorite BDP album. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Anytime, Sex and Violence gets mentioned, I love the compliments, and it's a bittersweet album for me. I did a whole breakdown on the Sex and Violence album on this channel, the making of, what was going on before, what was going on during, what happened after. It's on this channel. I did it about a year and a half ago. So for those that didn't see it, please go check out my Sex and Violence breakdown. Crusher Blackwell, I saw this today. Says, what's up? What's your take on when Salt and Pepper launched a lawsuit against Universal Music Group in a bid to reclaim their masters? Have you, KRS, and D-Nice had similar issues with Jive regarding masters? Well, first with Salt and Pepper, the thing is, there's certain clauses it's either in your contract or it's overall clause, but I believe after a certain amount of years, something like 25 or 30 years, the master ownership of the records goes back to the artist. And the master ownership is different than publishing. Let me see if I can get this right, because I'm not a master at this topic, but publishing is who wrote the actual lyrics and who wrote the music is publishing. That's the owners of the publishing rights. The masters is who paid for the music to be made? Who owns the actual recording? And I guess the master would be the 2-inch reel that whatever this song was recorded on. It has to be, it's by this day and age, it's actually hypothetical because most stuff is, digital. But the theory behind it was that a product was made onto some kind of reel, and that reel was owned by the person who paid to get it made, which 99 out of 100 times was the record company. So they own the masters, which means anytime somebody wants to use this record or press it up or reissue it, you have to go through the master owner and you have to go through the publishers. So there was a law that said that after, I think it was 25 years or 30 years, I'm not sure, but master ownership goes back to the artist. Now, has that been, uh, has that come to fruition? I don't know. Apparently, Salt and Pepper has not got their masters back, and they're fighting for theirs because it's very lucrative. Because if you own the Salt and Pepper's catalog, now you can sell it for millions or collect more money from it. Especially songs like "Push It." There's a lot of money made off a record like that. So I can see them suing. And I just saw today that Taylor Swift now owns all of her masters. She redid all of her songs over. As you know, there's two versions of Taylor Swift's songs. The original, that's owned by somebody just bought the master rights. And then she went and did all her songs over, which created a new master, which she now owns. I'm getting a little technical, but if you do the song over, now there's a second master of the same song. So if you look at Taylor Swift's catalog, you see the original, then you see Taylor's version. And Taylor's version has now outstreamed the original, and she owns Taylor's versions. But now I saw that she owns all of her masters. I don't know what happened, but I saw that today as well. Have KRS and D Nice had similar issues with Jive regarding masters? I don't know. Or myself, I was never signed to Jive. I was never signed to any record company. I was an employee of BDP. So, and any work that I did um, with Jive, I was an independent contractor. And of course, in the contract, they would say they have all rights to the master recordings. So I own no masters. I don't know what D Nice's argument is. I don't know if KRS-One's masters went back to him at a certain time. I don't know. That'd be a great question to ask him. That's a great question. Um, Benny Doyle in the building. B.R. Valentine says Rock Marciano ain't starving, but Sean Price used to joke that he was the brokest rapper you know. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you can have artistic integrity. We're going to call that underground. You could be underground or classic hip hop and make money if you can tour, because it's not really going to be on record sales. Because even independent artists have terrible record deals. record the record deals don't go good just because you're independent most of the time. Um, but if you can tour a lot, like which I'm assuming Rock Marciano does, you can make good money. I mean, he's not starving, but when I say starving, I mean relative to a person who makes commercial success, and also some rappers are really broke. And their lifestyles, of course, people's lifestyles cause them to go broke, but Rock Marciano is probably at the very top of the underground world, though. For every Rock Marciano, there's probably 1,000 dudes that put out records independently and are starving. Sugar Daddy One Williams, haven't seen you in a minute. What's good? Says, by all means necessary, changed my life. Mine too. Criminal Minded was my first album on wax. Hooked ever since. Dope. BDP crew. Um, let's see. Um, Thomas. Oh, Thomas James Thomas Jr. Did Kenny produce Hold? No, because if I did, I'd be getting some checks from that ESPN. But no, um, I'm pretty sure I didn't do that beat. Although I got to go back and listen to that. I think I was in the studio for that record. I got to go back and listen to that because I believe I was in. I might have been in the studio for that. Was that on Sneak Attack or was that on Chris Styles? I can't remember. Rod Justice says, I remember Dead Prez tried to straddle the fence with that whole RBG thing, and as Elaine Brown, Black Panther Party, said they were trying to sell out without catching flack for it. I mean, I don't know if having commercial success is considered selling out. Um, I think trying to do something that you're not, trying to be somewhere that you're not to sell more records to me is selling out. Um, I think the Fresh Prince made a lot of commercial records, but I don't consider him a sellout. He's always had the same style. From girls of the world ain't nothing but trouble all the way through. The Fresh Prince has pretty much had the same style, except for Summertime. So I don't really consider him a sellout. Like some people say, oh, he's commercial, so he's a sellout. I don't consider him a sellout. There's other people that I consider sellouts. I'm not going to mention their names. And there's some people who kept it really street and sold a lot of records, like Naughty by Nature. CMC's Techniques in Class. Thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Because KP had bigged you up on De La's YouTube page on their re-release of 3 Feet High and Rising on Blu-ray audio yesterday. Plug One Maceo would be dope guest. Yes, he would. Trying to work on that. Thank you so much for bigging me up. I'm the huge. I say this all the time. I am the hugest. Let me make sure. Oh, I might not have put this on. Did I? I'm messing up today on the on the on this platform. Let me make sure I had the question up so you can see it. But yeah, thank you so much for bigging me up. I'm a huge De La Soul fan, as we all know. And thank you once again for your contribution to the channel. It's always incredibly appreciated. Patrick Sargent says, call Bumpy Knuckles. um, yeah, we had Bumpy on the show. Bumpy was on the show about 6 months ago. Big up Bumpy. And I forgot to put the picture up that I have of me and Bumpy. Sidney Rose says Isaac Hayes Jr. is in that process for his father's music. Boy, that's a great fight right there. Um, Joey Joe says, I thought artists had a chance to get their masters back after 30 or 35 years, but they have to send paperwork ahead of time. Maybe that's true. I'm not exactly well versed in that subject of when the masters go back to the artist, but I know um, that there is a process. I'm not sure how it works though, but it's something like that. James Thomas Jr., thank you so much once again for your contribution to the channel. Says, Hold was on the KRS-One self-titled 1995. Oh, damn. I'm thinking of a whole different record then. No, I did not produce that. I was not on that album, 1995's KRS-One. I was not on that album at all. Although I did do a remix for Rappers Are in Danger. The European 12-inch has the Kenny Parker remix on there. So I have like a little, and oh yeah, I gave KRS the drums for oh yeah. So I have like a little DNA. I have like a little DNA on that album. Um, Nev Edificer says Taylor Swift and Drake, plus maybe a country artist or two, are single-handedly keeping the music industry afloat. I agree. I would throw Kendrick in there. I would love to see the executive meltdown if Swift went indie. Do you remember when she said she didn't want her music on Spotify? She was so powerful that she said, I didn't want my music on Spotify, and they had to change the rules and give her a different rate for her to even decide to put her music on Spotify. A person like Taylor Swift can really make a lot of change if she wanted to, and she's doing it for herself. Now, I don't know if it's going to trickle down to everybody else. These sucker ass record companies, man. You know, y'all know how I feel about them. Def Rocker says you can be authentic and have a regular job on the side like Sadat X. Absolutely. But if you want, I'm talking about artists. Sadat's a little bit different. He's a legacy artist who decided to um, jump in and get some work, get some 9 to 5 for various reasons. But I'm talking about artists who want to be a recording artist as their main income. It's very hard to make money being a recording artist as your main income if you don't have a record that people know. Now, there's some artists who build up a following in the underground and they can tour, but even an artist like that, if you ever catch one hot record, it's never the same, man. It's never gonna be the same. MK Ultra says you need to use like a throttle on ESPN so Kenny can get paid. Absolutely. Whoever that is you talking to, somebody find a Kenny Parker beat and play it. Public Enemy had commercial success and never sold out. Yeah. Um, absolutely. Uh, actually, Public Enemy had huge commercial. They're like have like a cult following at one point. And their audience their biggest audience was white. Which I always found interesting. I always used to be like, are they listening to Chuck's lyrics? I mean, Chuck's not racist, but he's definitely anti-establishment. Um, but yeah, he had a lot of commercial success dissing the establishment. Would love to get the great Chuck D on this channel. I might fan out too much and mess it up. Silent Someone says, peace, Kenny. Thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Really appreciate it. Says, who are some of your favorite West Coast producers? Well, Dre is my favorite producer of all time, so put him there at #1. Um, I mentioned on this channel that I really, really like Sir Jinx and the work he did with Ice Cube. He doesn't get mentioned enough. When people talk about Ice Cube's early albums, they talk about the Bomb Squad, as they should. But if you go back and listen to that album, half of that album is Sir Jinx. And I would argue horrible with Sir Jinx. That's two. I don't know that I've listened to one West Coast. I listen to West Coast music as it come along, but I don't know if I'm gonna say Daz because Daz did a lot of work behind the scenes with Dre. So I'm gonna throw Daz in that mix. He's uncredited on a lot of stuff, so I don't know how much I like Daz, but I'm gonna throw him in that mix because even though he's uncredited, I know he's in the mix of a lot of death row songs that I like somewhere in that mix. I don't know what in that mix. um, oh, Muggs, Cypress Hill, come on down. Muggs is ridiculous. Those are my favorite. I'm gonna go Muggs, Jinx, Dre, Daz. Those are my top producers that I can think of off the top of my head. Muggs is ridiculous, bro. Let me jump down. I'm gonna jump down. Wow, look at this. Verse Pro, what else says? I hate Kendrick, most overrated rapper ever. Wow. Um, Brand Yakubian says the rapper KARIP was a fireman. That was his day job. Um, John Bradley says Public Enemy is a statistical outlier. Absolutely. Absolutely, they are statistical. There's a few statistical outliers. That's why I said there's a couple of people that walk that line. Wu has had big success, platinum success, and they're about as grimy as you could get. Authentic, Nas, there's been a handful. And most of them started out underground per se or classic hip hop. And the mainstream came to them. They didn't go to the mainstream. The mainstream came to them and plucked out these hard records and decided to play them. This is a great comment. And this is what I love about hip hop. Since white people learned more about black history from Public Enemy and BDP, etc., than they did in school. Absolutely, I agree with that. But not just those groups, but hip hop in general, I think gave white America a better understanding of black people than what they were being told at the time. I'm talking in the 80s and 90s. Um, it gave us a voice so you could hear more of what was on our minds. Because you got to imagine at that time there wasn't a lot of voices, a handful of voices, and the images that were being presented of us, even to this day, the images that being presented of us does not represent us totally. It's like a small percentage of us. The image that you're seeing of black people is like a small percentage getting pushed in your face. And I think hip hop did an amazing job at letting the world know more about our culture. That's a great comment right there. Supreme Divine says, I love how you can admit the truth. Thank you. I don't know what truth I admitted, but I on this channel I try to keep it as real as I can and try to tell my truth. I mean, some things are what I consider true from my perspective. Some things are just my opinion. And I always say my opinion doesn't mean it's true. It's how I feel. And we accept all opinions on this channel. Um, but thank you so much. I try to tell the truth as best I can. And if I can't tell the truth, I say I can't mention it. Some things I say on this channel, I can't talk about it. Rod Justice says Chuck D told me his best-selling song of all time was Harder Than You Think. Really? But Public Enemy, I don't think they have best-selling songs. They have albums. Like a PE album is um a PE album is a whole experience. Like I don't think you should listen to like a PE single. It's like a whole album. MK Ultra. Thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Says randomly rewatched Cadillac Records the other night. Shout out to Muddy Waters, Little Walter, Etta James, and the Crazy Times and classic music. Yeah, I think I saw some of that movie, and I believe that the owner of that record company, his son, was a good friend of KRS. Jeff, what was his name? Marshall, the owner of Cadillac Records. I think I gotta find out the guy's name. But I think his son was a friend of KRS's. Yeah, I gotta check that again. I think either I saw it or I saw it a long time ago, and I saw some of it. Michael Mortis is KP. Maybe it's just me, but your audio is messed up right now, cutting in and out. Really? I don't know why that would be. Um, I hope that's not the case. I'm not mic'd up like I normally am today. I'm on my iPad. Um, CMC says no DJ Quick. Not for me. I didn't listen to DJ Quick like that. I know people talk about his production and him being a great mixer on the mixing board, but I never really listened to Quick like that. My favorite Quick record actually is a record he made called Just Like Compton. He says Denver is just like Compton, and there's a great message in that record. I used to like that, but I didn't really listen to DJ Quick like that. So he's not in on my list. Not saying he's not dope. He's just not on my list because I didn't really listen to him like that. Once again, CMC, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Redman's first album made me lose my shit with goosebumps. Mine too. What hip hop album makes you break your neck when you play it and gives you goosebumps? Low End Theory. Um, that first Redman album I loved. I would say EPMD's second album is it Unfinished Business, the one with So What You Saying on it. That album was ridiculous. Just thinking of albums that I listened to like a lot. The Purple Tape was dope. I mean, I listen to all kind of stuff, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head albums. Oh, Paid in Full. It Takes a Nation of Millions. There's a few. I'm gonna go. Of course, I'm a native tongue head. I'm going Low End Theory. Low End Theory is the album that gives me the goosebumps the most. That first Redman album, Tonight's the Night, man. Oh man, you're right about that. I would love to get Reggie Noble on this channel too. Um, Next time I see him or get a chance to speak to him, um, I'll ask him. Spiritual Gangster said, "Will you be doing any DJ gigs on tours in Canada anytime soon?" I have not been booked there. Would love to, but I guess the answer is no. Um, Black Light says, "No doubt, Daz Dillinger." Yeah, I would love to talk to Daz. I just want to find out what exactly did you do, Daz? We get bits and pieces of stories. That I was, like I said, Dr. Dre is one of my right at the top favorite producers of all time. So I studied Death Row a lot. Um, I watched all the documentaries and I had all the albums and I used to collect all Dr. Dre singles and I heard Daz did a lot of work, especially on the Doggy Style, which is mostly credited to Dr. Dre. But if you listen, I always wondered because Doggy Style and The Chronic came out like 6 months apart. Same producer, but they sound remarkably different. Doggy Style is almost night and day different than the Chronic sound. And they came out within a year of each other. And I'm like, Dre changed his production drastically in that time period. And then some people was like Daz Dillinger was doing a lot of stuff. So I don't know. Daz, if you ever check out this channel, hey Daz, can you please come on and talk to a brother? I've never met Daz Dillinger. I've never met anybody from Death Row except for the Lady of Rage, shout out to Robin, and Pac. Anyway, what's up? This is Hey KP, your audio is good. Thank you. I was listening to PE's You're Gonna Get Yours track. Who you super first, PE or BDP? Oh, well, You're Gonna Get Yours, I believe, is the B side of. Is that the. Wait, is it You're Gonna Get Yours and My Uzi Weighs a Ton? Was that the single? Oh, man. I believe that was on Yo Bum Rush the Show, right? Which came out in 87. BDP used Super Sperm for You Must Learn in 89. So I'm going to say PE by a couple of years. Even if it came out on It Takes a Nation, that's still 88. But I believe it came out on um, Yo Bum Rush the Show. But yeah, PE used it first. Super Sperm. You must learn. Um, Before I forget, please hit the like button if you get a chance. It helps the algorithm. I see people talking about producers. I see people say Quick, DJ Battle Cat, The Alchemist. Alchemist is from the West Coast? I didn't really realize that. Spook Realm says, for the record, Fresh Prince admitted to fashioning his style after Rakim or Summertime. I saw that. Matter of fact, I think he said that on Sway in the Morning. I think he said that to Rakim. He finally came clean. The God influenced so many people, so. Joey Joe says, wow, hate is a strong word, Verse Pro. Yeah, you said you hate Kendrick. Hate is a strong word, but if you hate him, you hate him. Benny Doyle, what up? Says, oh, now he wants to scroll. Where was that when JT deducted a point from me on Tuesday for not knowing Kenny was 6'6"? Come on, Benny Doyle, man. You should know that. KRS is 6'4". April 7th artwork. What up? Says, hey, Kenny, would you ever have Marley Marl on as a guest? Absolutely. Me and Marley are cool. I'm mad cool with Marley Marl. Marley's cool with KRS and everybody now. They did a whole album together. I'm cool with Marley. I think Marley is one of the most influential producers of all time. He's in my top 5, dead or alive. He changed the game. I don't like to say that. I use that lightly. I don't like to say that, but Marley Marl is a game changer. What are your favorite Marley tracks? Oh, come on. Eric B is president, and check out my melody. Symphony. Road to the Riches. Um, Biz. Nobody beats the Biz. Oh man. LL. Mama Said Knock You Out was banging. Yeah. He did some work with Lords of the Underground. I don't know what he did, but His work with Laws of the Underground was dope. Big up DJ K Def, who did a lot of work too. They were working together, so I don't know who did what. But yeah, Marley had some absolute ridiculous records. I'm even gonna go Spoonie G. Take it off. I think he did that too. Remember that? Now you called my house and you said come over. Take it off, Spoonie G. I even loved that. Marley was a monster in the late '80s. EP says, how many of Nas's albums actually went platinum? I believe all of them. He said two? Nah, because Illmatic, um, it was written as like double. I know God's Son is platinum. I would say he has like five of them. I would say all of his albums on Columbia are platinum, right? God's Son, Stillmatic, all that. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm gonna go with like five. Kenny, do you think Wu-Tang was the first grimy crew to cross over and become huge? No. I was just talking to my friend about that the other day. We gotta define what you mean by grimy and huge, because it's huge at the time. Because BDP had guns on the cover, and Criminal Minded was at that time the grimiest, and it was huge. Um, but I think DOS effects, straight from the sewer. They had the dark colors, they had the Timbs, the dreads. They was literally in a sewer. And their records were straight hardcore. There was nothing commercial about DOS Effects. And their first album sold 1 point something million copies. I think They Want Effects went to number one in the Billboard Hot 100, number one song in the country. I think DOS Effects was the first grimy crew to go in to really do some numbers that presented a grimy image. And then Onyx was pretty rough. They also went platinum. Wu was some other kind of grimy though. Wu was some other kind of some different kind of grimy. But I don't think they were the first. I think they might have took griminess to the max. I don't think there was a crew as grimy as Wu-Tang ever to be as big as them. Because right after Wu-Tang, remember everything switched to the Versace era. Bad Boy, Puff Daddy, and they changed the game. So after that, everybody went Cuban linked out. But Wu-Tang, I think Wu-Tang was the biggest, grimiest crew ever, in my opinion. Let's see. EP says Illmatic is the most overrated album of all time. Wow. I don't agree, but I respect your opinion. And when you say overrated, that means where we think it's rated, it shouldn't be there. Illmatic is rated as easily a top 10 rap album of all time. Um, so you're saying it shouldn't be that. Where should it land? Where should Illmatic land? Where should it be rated at according to you, EP? I'd like to hear the answer to that question. B Fred says, I'm just coming on, so I don't know the topic. Was there an actual beef between Ice Cube and King Son? There was. I believe Ice King Son stepped to Ice Cube. I heard that argument. Um, I wasn't there, but I heard at the Palladium in New York City, Ice Cube had a show, and King Son grabbed the microphone, I think, from the DJ booth, and kind of interrupted the show, or something like that. And he was mad because he claims the song "Wicked" was actually King Son's song, and it was on a demo, and Ice Cube stole his song and did it kind of like how he did it. That's what I heard. Um, there was definitely a beef. I remember that. Let's see. Um, EP says, name one since Fear of a Black Planet. Name, what do you mean, name one what? Fight the Power is PE's best-selling song, B Fred. I would imagine so. I think it's their biggest song. I would say that's their biggest record, individual record. It was in the movie and everything. There was a movement that summer with Spike Lee and all that. Verse Pro says, yeah, P needs to be listened to by the whole album. That's my opinion. And I'm falling behind. Sweet Gold Deluxe's audio is perfect. Thank you. Um, Verse Pro says audio is fine. Thanks. Um, Rock Justice says, Kenny, your speech and video are no longer aligned. You look like a kung fu movie. Word? What is going on? Should I cut it off and cut? No, I'm not going to cut it off because that would end the stream. But Verse Pro says DJ Quick had no range. All his beats sound the same. Interesting. Or EP is just out here right now. He says Daz is overrated too. I don't know where Daz is rated, but um, I don't know where Daz is rated because I don't know what exactly Daz did. Verse Pro says Muddy Waters is Redman's best work. It could be. It could really be. Um, I don't have an argument with that. Muddy Waters was incredible. Let me not mess up your name. Let's see if I can get this right. Mr. Borukwa? I don't want to mess up your name. I'm sorry. Um, Thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Says Cypress Hill was a grimy game changer. They were grimy too. They did stadium festivals with rock and roll dudes. And rock and roll dudes, my white guys love them. Yeah, Cypress Hill was grimy. I don't know if they was grimy. I mean, they dressed, they had on the hoodies and stuff. That Killer Man song was they talking about straight busting off. Um, I think Das Effects was grimier than Cypress Hill. I think Onyx was grimier than Cypress Hill. And they all sold about the same. But I love Cypress Hill. Shout out to Muggs. Shout out to Be Real. Shout out to Sen Dog. Me and Sen Dog hung out one time in New York City in Times Square. We went to a club. We had a good old time one night, man. Um, Let's see. I see some people on here dissing me. Let's see. um, EP says nah. It's EP. EP says nah, Kenny, but I don't know what you're talking about because I'm a little behind. Um, EP says Snoop's joint was Dolby. I don't know what that means. Don Dallas TV, what up? Long time. He says he stopped jacking Daz for beats. I don't know who did see. I don't know. I don't know who did what. I just know. I just remember the Chronic, which I thought was a master. Well, they're both masterpieces, but the Chronic was a masterpiece, and Doggy Style came right on top of it because the demand for Snoop was so huge. You had to drop the album, and it just sounded completely different. Scuba Scuba says the Chronic was so unexpectedly great. It was. And it was, yep, unexpectedly. We had no idea. Verse Pro says Doggy Style was a faster tempo than the Chronic. That is true. It was a little bit more up to a little bit faster. You're right about that. But it seemed like I had more instrumentation or something was going on. CMC says RBX was my guy on the Chronic too. I loved RBX, man. Jason Wall says I was never big on the West Coast Funkadelic samples personally. They all sample the same song. It got redundant. I could see where you say that. Sometimes it seemed like the more bounce to the ounce Funkadelic sound seemed to be repetitive. I could hear where you would say that. The G Funk. But there were some gems in there though. Oh, Flochi says, Yo, Kenny, Heather B gave you a shout out on Sway in the morning last week. A word, big up Heather B. When Redman was on there. A word? Maybe Redman, we get Redman on the show. Says they played Do You right toward the beginning. Do You is a song, a Heather B song from 1998 that I produced. Uh, I did not know that. That's dope. Big up Heather B for shouting me out. Big up Reggie Noble, Sway, the whole crew. Um, oh, Rich says R.I.P. Shot G. Digital Underground's production was really dope too. Digital Underground has some dope production. EP says, "Who thought Chronic was unexpectedly great?" I did. Um, but when I first heard Dre was going solo, I was like, "Well, he's the producer," but like he rapped a little bit on NWA, but I didn't see him making a classic by himself. And I remember I was in a record store and my man, it was a store, I think it was called Downstairs or Downtown. It was right across the street from Jive Records on 25th Street. My man Dante used to run the hip hop section, vinyl. And he said, Dr. Dre got a new single out. And I was like, word, because I loved the DOC. I love all his production. I even loved the Michelle A. I thought Something in My Heart was incredible production from a hip hop producer. Made an incredible R&B song with Michelle A. So I was like, okay. And he's like, there's a guy named Snoop Doggy Dogg on it. And I'm like, Snoop Doggy Dogg. And I remember I was mad at Dre too, because I think I mentioned on this show that I'm good friends with D Barnes. And this was right after that whole incident with D Barnes. Um, and Dre. So I was a little like, you know what? I'm not really feeling Dre. I love his music, but I'm not really feeling him. And the guy was like, he got a new record with Snoop Doggy Dogg. It's called Deep Cover. And I was like, all right, let me hear it. I was like, let me hear it. Then I heard that doom, 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 doom. I could feel it. That beat dropped. I was like, I'll take two of those. um, I remember playing that for KRS for the first time. I played that for him, Dr. Dre and Snoop, and so I was a little ready for the Chronic, but I didn't know it was gonna be like that. Anybody that could say they thought the Chronic was gonna be like that, there's no way. Um, James Thomas Jr., thank you so much for your contribution to the to the channel. He said, Run DMC's first grimy. Run DMC first grimy. Think on it. They were grind. Well, nah. Run DMC was fresh. When Run DMC dropped Sucker MCs, the sound was grimy. That was a grimy record. That record changed everything. But then when Rockbox dropped and we got a good look at the Kings from Queens, they weren't grimy, they were fresh. They had the leather suits, the Kango, the hats, the Gazelles, the fresh Adidas. They looked like fresh New York dudes. They didn't look grimy to me. Because there was a grimy New York. If people know New York, this is back in the day. The nice dressed guys were usually from uptown. Harlem, uptown usually had the nice dressed guys. They were the players. They had the fresh haircuts and the cars and the jewelry. And then you had Brooklyn. And Brooklyn was grimy part of New York. And everybody in Brooklyn had on Timbs and fatigues and Scullies and hoodies. It just looked like it was about to be on at any time. So you could tell the difference between a Harlem uptown dude and a Brooklyn dude immediately in the party. Now, Run DMC came out kind of looking more uptownish. So I wouldn't say they were grimy. I think they were fresh. Nobody to me was really grimy in the 80s. That's why I say when BDP dropped and they had the burners on the cover, that was about as hard as you could get. And then they were talking about listening to my nine. I think Just Ice was grimy. Just Ice was grimy. The gold fronts, he was grimy too. But I don't think grimy really came out and really took off until the 90s. My opinion. Um, And James Thomas says, also, my bad, think about it. He says, think on it, think about it. Yeah. Um, I don't know if Run DMC was grimy. That's just my opinion. I think they were fresh. Uh, Raj Justice says, remember, Rakim said he produced my melody. Well, there's controversy about who did what with Marley Marl, because he said they came to him with the ideas, but he made it. Like he took the drum, he took the keyboard and found the sounds and went doom, 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 and the whistle and all of that and the drum sounds. He played the keys on Check Out My Melody and Eric B. as President. So they came to him with the idea, but the way he put it together was next level. Go back and listen to Eric B. as President. It still sounds incredible right now. Stephen Heath says, people don't talk about Marley anymore. It's always Dilla, Preem, Pete. Yeah, people's memories don't go back that far. A lot of people are young. So when you see people are talking, they're speaking of young. I'm fortunate enough to be old enough to remember hip hop, all of it. So I know that Marley Marl was incredible. And I talk about Larry Smith on this channel, the first great super producer, and Rick Rubin. People just talk about the 90s because for most people, they talk about the golden era, which I hate that term. Hip hop is really from 89 to 94. Anything before and after that doesn't count. But I think 88, 87 was ridiculous. Even 95, 96, there was dope stuff going on. But People just stuck in their people are stuck in their own bubble of what they think is dope. This is just my opinion. Other people could think, Black Light says, have you met Black Poet? I'm not sure. I've been in the studio with Preem. I believe he might have been there. I'm not sure. MK Ultra says, do you think ODB was influenced by Biz? Sometimes I could see some Biz in ODB. I mean, you have to be influenced by the people that came before you. I can see that. I don't know, but I can see where you're going with that. Brother Ron says Nas got 8 platinum albums. Exactly. I said 5. It's 8. Go ahead, Nas. Red just threw in Craig G versus Supernatural. I talk about that, my little contribution to that battle. I have an epic fails on here called Juice Crew. A lot of people didn't get a chance to look at that. Juice Crew epic fails. I'll talk about a few. I have 3 Juice Crew, or 2 or 3 Juice Crew incidents that I was a part of. I think it's 3. And one of them is the Craig G Supernatural battle. Please watch that if you haven't got a chance. Shout out to Craig G, that's the homie, and of course Supernatural, that's family. Um, Joey Joe says, "Come on, y'all all know Kenny got something against calling Wu-Tang influential." I do not have a thing against calling Wu-Tang if they are influential. Influential is different than change the game. And I think Wu-Tang was not the first grimy crew. I think they're the biggest. And I think they took grimy to the maximum. There's no other crew more grimy than Wu-Tang that got as big as them. I agree. They are incredibly influential. Boot Camp Click was grimy too. Cutie Pie 509. Yes, Boot Camp Click was grimy. I don't think they had the commercial success as the others, but they were grimy. Antoine Ware says those Dre and Snoop albums were actually released a year apart. As usual, the show is dope as always. Kenny requests a guest for this channel. Chubb Rock, Grand Poobah, Special Ed, respect. I've been working on it. So it was a year apart. Maybe the albums were released a year apart because I remember Dr. Dre's single. I think the 3rd single off that album was "Let Me Ride." I think "Let Me Ride" was still kind of bumping, and Doggy Style was like right on the back of it. Like I remember it was like the Chronic still had legs when Doggy Style dropped almost, in my mind. I could be wrong. But yeah, it was around, I said 6, it was around a year. But the sound is so different. The Harsh Truth said EPMD was the first grimy group. I don't think they were grimy. They were street. They were clean. They were clean grimy. Das Effects was in a sewer. that to me is dirt. They were dirty. Patrick Sarder said commercial grimy. That's the term we need. We need commercial grimy. Because Tretch was grimy. And all his visuals, all of them videos was mad grimy, and Tretch in real life is grimy. But the anthems that they produced made them sell 1 million records. So you could argue that. Gregory Netter says BDP was not grimy like Wu-Tang or Das Effects, Kenny. I agree. I said at the time, in 1987, 86, 87, BDP was the grimiest when Criminal Minded dropped. When Criminal Minded dropped in 87, there was nothing like that. Now, it got grimier. They were not grimy like Das Effects or Wu-Tang. Absolutely not. Although they have burners on. Go look at the cover of Criminal Minded. Dudes had that cover was real grimy. For 87, you gotta think of the time. Like I said, I don't think they're more grimy than Wu-Tang or Das, but at that time, they were. Shoot, Mobb Deep is grimy. All them Queensbridge dudes, tell you the truth. Um, Mr. Boricua, I don't, sorry, man. But thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. I'm going to say Boricua. KP, you said you was going to break down the plight of the producer, how you shop beats to MCs, and how and when you get paid if somebody don't use, let's see, how you get paid if somebody don't use the beat, do you still get paid? Break it down, Kenny Parker. Well, there's different ways to shop beats to MCs, and we're talking back in the day because this is a new era now. The era now of you can send files and send MP3s. I could send a beat to a guy in Africa in 30 seconds. That's unbelievable. But I'm talking about historically shopping beats, and I'm not I haven't shopped a lot of beats. I don't have a lot of placements, but I've attempted to. A lot of times it's who you know. If you can get close to an artist or a producer or their DJ and give them some music, a tape, or back then it was a tape, maybe they would listen to it. Maybe they might like something and call you back. Maybe they might just steal your beat and recreate it. That's happened to me a couple of times. That was one way to get a beat to an MC, was through somebody you knew, either knowing the MC or producer or DJ. Another way was the A&R person whoever was assigned to that album. A&Rs would be getting tapes all the time at the office, tapes of songs, artists, beats, singers, everything. And they were supposed to, most of them didn't, but they were supposed to go through these tapes and if they hear something, present it to an artist on the label. So if you knew an A&R person who was in charge of a certain project and you got a beat tape to him and he heard something, maybe he can play it in the studio or play it for an artist. That was another way you can get a beat to an MC. Then if you had a track record, like a Premier or Pete Rock or somebody, they call you. You somebody like Preem or Pete, your phone was ringing off the hook. You didn't have to shop. I mean, I'm sure they shopped, but people were calling them. I got a project. Can you get on my project? So all you really needed from them was to have their number. I remember when I was in the studio with Heather B and D&D, there was a guy who was representing DJ Clark Kent, rest in peace. And I remember him just walking into our session. He not just barge in, but the door was open. He came in and he was like, "Yo, I'm down with Clark Kent, and we shopping beats." So Clark had somebody. He wasn't even there. He had people going around in his name in studios just presenting tracks. Of course, I told the guy that I was working on this project, so we weren't really looking for no beats, but he did come in the studio when we were in D&D, so that happens. And then the question is, when you get paid if somebody don't use the beat, do you still get paid? Oh, how and when you get paid? Well, it normally goes just like a show. they accept the beat. I want to use your beat. You get half the money up front. Half of whatever you agree upon is your fee. Half of it up front. That secures the beat. This is so and so's beat. They have literally bought the beat from you. Now, if they don't use the beat, you don't get the second half. Now, at some point, you can take that beat back because they never paid you in full for the beat. So the beat kind of, getting half your money kind of holds the beat in place. You can't give it to nobody else because this person bought it. But if they don't use it and pay you the other half, then you can take your beat back. Now, if they can pay you the other half, make a song, and it never comes out. That happens a bunch of times. People, most of the albums that you see, they record a bunch of songs and then whittle it down to the songs they want to keep on the album. But each one of those songs they recorded has a producer who got at least half his money. Sometimes you get paid all your money and the beat never comes out. But if you get paid all your money, then that person owns the beat. They could hold on to it for 20 years and be like, you know what, I'm putting it on my 20th anniversary issue. They paid you in full for that beat. So to answer your question, when you get paid, normally it's once the beat is out, it's accepted, and it comes out, you get your second half of your money. It has to be established that the beat will be on the album. I don't know if it comes out in stores. You probably get your money before it comes out in stores, but once it's established that the beat will be on the album, you're supposed to get your second half of the money. And like I said, if they don't pay your second half, that could be a lawsuit. And I've been through all of that. I've been through getting half my money up front. I've been through getting all my money up front. I've been through working on an artist with a handshake agreement and never getting paid, and had to try to sue to get my money. I've been through all of that. But yeah, that's the breakdown. Now, by today's standards, now they have like, you can sell beats online at certain websites. They have a platform for producers to sell beats online, or lease. This is something different where you can lease a beat, which means an unknown artist can come on a website, hear your beats, pay X amount of money to hold it for X amount of time. Let's say 6 months. I'm paying to hold this beat for 6 months. If they don't use the beat after 6 months, the beat comes back to you and you can use it for something else. If they use the beat and it comes out, I don't know if you end up getting more money or, royalties. I don't know how that works because I'm not in that world. But you can lease beats, which is almost like leasing a car. You can borrow beats. That wasn't really a thing when I was coming up in the game. Like, let me hold that beat and let me rap on it and hold it for 6 months and see if I'm going to use it. And I'll give you a little money. And if I don't, I guess somebody giving you half your money up front is sort of like leasing, but it wasn't really like that before. So, okay. I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. And since I've been speaking to you, we have almost 100 comments. So what I'm going to do is just jump all the way down. I'm sorry, I'm skipping comments. I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to jump in right here. Patrick Sargent says, yeah, Snoop isn't a substantial rapper, just a swagger rapper. I consider Snoop substantial. That's just a matter of opinion. Let's see. Red said, LOL, not Michelle A. I liked Michelle A. And Michelle A went platinum, so 1 million people liked Michelle A. But the reason I brought Michelle A up was because Something's in My Heart is an incredibly produced record by a guy who did Straight Outta Compton and the DOC. And he comes from an R&B background, even though I don't think he produced the World Class Wrecking Crew. I think he was just part of the group. But the same guy who did Straight Outta Compton and DOC turned around and did Michelle A, and that sold 1 million. And that same guy also did JJ Fad's Supersonic. That's crazy to me. Yeah, I liked Michelle A. Sydney Rhodes says Digital Underground Sex Packets was a hell of a debut. Yeah, it was. Um, Ronan Hollins, what up? Says that record Deep Cover was unexpected and a monster. Absolutely. I said to both of those. Nobody knew that was coming. And it was a monster. And it wasn't even on the Chronic. Jason Wall says Lady of Rage was on the Chub Rock the One album from 1990. I just found that out a few months ago. I never knew that. What was she doing on there? Patrick Sargent said Death Row put a black eyeball in hip hop. One could argue that. Philly Sheet said that was the one, Deep Cover. Deep Cover was ridiculous, bro. Scuba says Rockbox was grimy. Maybe for that time. Sucker MCs was grimy for that time. Rockbox was very well produced. Rockbox was dope, man. Rockbox was so dope. EP says Rod Justice, define authentic hip hop. Most hip hop cats are not musically inclined. They can't make hits. Most artists can't make hits, even ones that's musically inclined. It's incredibly difficult to make a hit record, man. Soldier says that beat on Sucker MCs was street. That beat was absolutely street. That was the streetest of beats. Oh, Markeith Bankroll, what up? Says live at the Funhouse was hard. That was hard. We heard that after Sucker MCs, but that was hard. Here we go. Here we go. That was Run DMC was so crazy, y'all. Let's see. EP says Kenny Brooklyn put Polo on the map. Brooklyn was fly too, but that was later on. All that Polo and this and what was that? Decepticons? Who was that had the Polo? Was it the Low Lives? The Low Lives? That was later on. I was talking Run DMC era. Kenneth Smith says, yeah, but Run DMC dressed like drug dudes. Yeah, kind of, yeah. Like, well, to me, Uptown dudes dressed like drug dudes, but yeah, they were dressed like drug dudes. They were fresh. Run DMC in '84, Rock Box and all of they was super fresh. A leather suit a leather suit today is fresh. Uh, this is an interesting question. I might mess around and get canceled. Kenny Parker, are there any artists where you can't or refuse to separate the artist from the crime or bad traits? I try to separate the artist from the bad trait. I try to separate the first of all, I think we know too much about artists. And there's an old saying that says never meet your heroes. Um, I think we have learned too much about artists and it has ruined the mystique. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's not many stars now. Because there's no mystique. You know every little thing about it. But I know when you go to the store, I know when you come back, I know what you bought, I know what your dog's name is, your cat. Like, there's too much. A dude like Prince, who was huge and nobody knew anything about him. That I can't even see that happening today. But is there an artist that I cannot separate? Are there any artists that I just can't? There was a few. I'm not going to say any names. There's a couple that's done some things that, if true, are unforgivable. I'll say that. Let me scroll all the way down because I'm all the way late. We had an hour and 25. Damn. This is funny. Soldier is all Glocks down grimy. I don't think it's grimy. I think it's the sound of the time. I think there was grimier records out that and we dropped that in 95. We made the record in 94. There was grimier records. Even the video, Heather was grimy for girls at the time, female rappers, but I don't know if it's grimy. Maybe for female rappers. Um, Markeith Bankroll says, get a meaning of griminess. I would say that's a great question because what's grimy to one person is not grimy to another. But I would say either representing the street element. I would say representing the street element visually and or musically. Um, and I would say whatever would be the norm of how people dress in the street, I would say grimy is a notch or two below what would be considered the average dressed person. But there's some dudes that looked clean that talked grimy at times. But I think the Wu captured, see, I'm bigging up the Wu right now. I think the Wu captured the griminess to the fullest. And they had different flavors of grimy. Like they all were different, but you never felt any one of them wasn't absolutely from the streets. I thought Nas Illmatic, I thought Nasty Nas from Queensbridge with the chipped tooth was a grimy sounding guy. And he dressed grimy, even though he had like a baby face. I thought that he presented and with the sound of the album, I thought that was grimy to me. Um, but that would be my definition of griminess. A street look and sound, even less polished than what you would consider average. So straight from the sewer, to me, is mad grimy. Vincent Ross says Schoolie D was grimy. Well, the record, I guess PSK was grimy. We never got to see what he looked like at the time. Antoine Ware says EPMD was street excellence, not grimy though. I like that. I like that. They were street excellent. I don't consider them grimy, but I consider them, that's a great street excellence. Rosmel, thank you so much because I thought I was starting to feel crazy. Says, you're right, Kenny. Let Me Ride and What's My Name both dropped at the same time. Yeah. Yeah. It's like those albums almost overlapped each other and were completely different. Same producer. Thank you so much, Rosmel. I needed that. Gregory Nettis says Das Effects was talking to rats in the sewers. That's grimy. Word up. So that's what I'm talking about. They had straight up sewer, New York sewer rats. And anybody that's from New York know New York rats are the realest. New York rats are not afraid of people. When it gets late at night and they come out and they ready to eat, they don't care who's outside. They walk right up on you and just say, excuse me, you could be on the train platform. There's times when you couldn't even ride the subway because the rats used to be on the platform like, yo, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's our time. Yeah, Das Effects was talking of rats in the sewer. I don't know if you could get more grimy than that. And they went platinum. And they had the #1 record in the country. They Won Effects, I believe, went to #1 or #2 in the Hot 100 in '92. That's probably up there with New Kids on the Block and Paula Abdul or whatever. And Das Effects with rats. Engage VR YouTube channel says Apache, I Need a Gangsta Bitch. That was a grimy record. All the visuals, the song title, the girl in the video, that was gangsta. That was grimy to me. All right, we're at 1.5 hours. I'm gonna scroll all the way to the bottom. I just jumped 150 comments. I'm at the very bottom, so I'm caught up. I'm gonna read a couple. And I think this is the grimiest record of all time. Swoop Round 4 keeps the ante up. First of all, MOP from Brownsville. Brooklyn is the grimiest part of New York, and Brownsville is the grimiest part of Brooklyn. I think MOP could be the grimiest group. The screaming and yelling, what they're talking about. Ante Up is the hardest record to me of all time. The beat, the subject matter, the vocal tone. I think that is the grimiest record ever made. That blew up. That record is on commercials right now. NFL. I'm like, y'all, did y'all know what this record is about? Did y'all listen to the lyrics? They just like, I think it was Fame. I think they just like that Fame scream and the beat. I'm like, man, did y'all vet this record? Good call, Spook Realm. Ante Up is, man. Jason Wall says that Das Effects video when they in the tunnels. Yeah, that one. Markeith Banquet says Chicago got mad rats. I've heard Chicago rats are up there. Because New York, man, the problem with New York is we have so many tourists. And at night, at like 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, New York, there's so much garbage on the ground. It's like a carnival. You ever been to a carnival at the end of the night and you just see just trash everywhere? That's how New York looks at night in certain parts. It looks like a carnival had just happened. And of course, rats love that. And we have the New York City subway system underground running through the whole city. So there's plenty of places for them to grow and live and hang out. Now, I heard Chicago got rats. I even saw one time that New York was ranked second to Chicago in rats. I cannot believe New York being ranked second to rats. I can't imagine what's going on. Next Tuesday, we're going to be back here. By the way, those that's just checking in, this is the Friday special edition. We're going to try to keep these Fridays going 8 p.m. But our normal Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I, God willing, will be here on Tuesday night. And I want to talk to some dudes from Chicago. Can you tell me about these Chicago rats? I want to know what's going on. Are they country rats? Are they like rats that field rats, or like, because New York rats are dirty. They are in the sewer. They're dirty and aggressive. They'll jump right out in front of you like they're not afraid of humans. I would love to have that conversation about Chicago rats. Scuba says, I can't stand rats, bro. Not more than me. That's my #1 hated thing on earth. John O says CNN War Report was filthy. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. CNN was really, really grimy. Yes. They didn't have the commercial success, big commercial success, but did they go gold? They might have went gold. Let me rephrase that. I'm not sure how much they sold, But that they were real nasty. Speaking of nasty, Joy Joe says New York City rats and pigeons are gangs. Yeah, the pigeons too. Pigeons aren't afraid either. Like you think you birds will fly away. New York City pigeons, they walk right up on you. You got some food, they're like, oh, share. Matter of fact, let me get that. Oh my goodness. JVC7 says MC Hammer was grimy behind the scenes. So we're finding out. Never knew, never knew uh about MC Hammer and his exploits till like recently. Behind the scenes with all them shiny pairs, he was the realest, they say. All right. It's 9:30. I like this comment. Dom says MOP versus Onyx is tough, but I got MOP. Slam versus Annie Up is very tough. Yeah. Slam was a grimy record, but Annie Up's subject matter. The whole song is about stick up. Even Slam is about having fun in a wild way. We don't really care. We just do, let the boys be boys, and we just mosh pitting it up. Annie Up is about gimme that. That's a good battle though. Hakeem says, "Peace, KP. You're right. New York City rats are the wildest. Yes, man. I've been up and close personal with them. Those New York City rats are not to be played with. But I want to hear about Chicago. Um, you guys get a chance. I'm gonna jump off. Oh, I'm just gonna look at this real quick. Patrick Wise says Chicago has worse rats, and I'm from the Bronx. Word? Please, on Tuesday, Patrick Wilder, can we get into this? Because I can't. Now, this is a New Yorker saying um, that uh, Chicago rats are worse. So let's see. All right, y'all. Let me make this smaller. I'm gonna jump off. I'm gonna catch you guys Tuesday, God willing. Oh wait, we got one I missed. Hold on, y'all. This is the last thing I'm gonna jump off. I know I saw this. Sorry, I did see this. Okay, that's it. We're jumping off. I'm gonna catch you guys on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll catch you then.